I call this meeting of the Village of Suffern Planning Board to order. The date is September 14th, 2022. The time is 7:01. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. First item on the agenda is sign application for the law office of Stuart Altman. Move forward.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. So we have your application. The proposed coverage is 91% for the facade sign. The guidelines are 30%. The window sign.
No, 70.
I'm sorry, 70%. And the window sign proposed is 26%, permitted is 10%. Door sign proposed is 22%, permitted is 10%. So they're a little on the large size. We have made slight exceptions in the past. What we usually do is instruct people to go back to the sign people and just reduce it a little bit.
See, my request would be this, if possible, because I have a law office and it serves Spanish-speaking people as well as English-speaking people, and that's why maybe for the size of the sign, I needed it both in English and Spanish. So that's what I had asked them to do to prepare a sign to try and fit in.
Any comments from the board members?
Yeah, could you possibly make the lettering a little smaller so you can get both on the smaller sign? Because lately, people have been getting notices that the signs they have now exceed, and they're coming in to get them to the legal sizes. So if we give you what you're asking for, they're going to all want what they're asking for or what they have now that they shouldn't have. So I would speak to my sign guy and see if maybe instead of the letters being this big, maybe they could be that big.
Okay, I could speak to them to reduce it, you know.
Because, you know, it's not like you're close. You're 21% over.
Also, I just had a quick question. The picture that we have here, it just says law office on it. But you were saying that you had it in English and Spanish, but it just says law office in English.
Yeah, it should have on the top law office. That should be on the awning up top, and then there's the window sign.
No, I see the window signs, but I'm talking about the facade sign.
Yes, it just says law office, that's correct.
It just says law office, okay. So, I see that the writing is both in English and Spanish on the window.
Yes.
Which I can understand, you know, at least that makes sense to me. But the sign that just says law office, is there any way to bring that back into the permitted length and height?
I could certainly ask them. I think for the sign that says law office, it's like standard lettering they have, but if they have a smaller size, that's fine.
I mean, I think we don't have a problem with the window sign because it's slightly over. It's the main sign that's grossly over. So I would advise you to contact them and tell them what the parameters are. They should be able to do it. They're a sign company. I don't see why they couldn't make it a little smaller. Don't forget, people are going to be riding by. The people that are walking are going to see your sign if it's the legal amount of lettering. The driving by, they're not going to really be reading that sign as they go 35 miles an hour.
I was actually more concerned with the window sign, which was in English and Spanish, but if that's fine.
I don't think anybody have a problem with the window sign. It's a little over.
No,
there's really no problem with that one.
Okay. So the other sign's no problem reducing that. I was confused. I thought you were talking about the window sign.
Yeah, because most of your traffic's going to be walking.
Okay.
So, you know, try to keep it to the limit on the large sign.
Stuart, you want a copy of this so you can show the sign guy what's prepared?
Yes, that would be great.
Yeah, thank you for that. What we'll do is we'll hold this over to next month, and it shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, we'll work with you. Thank you.
Before we go, these guys want to...
Do you guys have any comments on this?
Like I said, I don't don't have any issues with the, I understand that, you know, you'd want the window and the door, you'd want, first of all, we like people to have their hours on the doors, and I have no problem with the English and the Spanish, both on the window, and I understand how that would take up a little bit more room. If we can get the sign, we can get the top sign into, you know, I don't believe that is it an existing sign they're just pulling down and re-lettering it? Or is it?
There's nothing existing there at all.
There's nothing existing, okay.
And I was going to ask, because you said for next month, is it possible just to put the window signs up and do the other part of the sign the next month then?
Well, you're going to have to go up to the building department before you put any signs up, and they'll give you the okay.
Well, he's it.
No.
You're asking about the window sign and the door
Well,
sign.
I don't see why we would stop them from the window sign.
Yeah, the window and the door sign, I don't seem to have an issue with.
But as you brought that up, I do have a question. Are those blinds going to be down day and night?
Yes, they are. They're going to be taken down. I'm trying to figure out what to put in there, because I want to put in a security system there as well.
Well, my question is, it's safer for you to have visibility into your office at night. If someone breaks in, if, God forbid, a fire starts, it's roaring by the time anybody sees it through Venetian blinds. I mean, years ago, the cops used to walk around, I'm sure they do it occasionally now, and check the doors, but they can't see if anybody's running around in there. So I don't know about anybody else on the board. I've brought that up numerous times. If anybody else wants to speak to it.
Well, in reference to a lawyer's office, I understand that also they might want to have some privacy inside and not have people, you know, glaring in when they're with, you know, during appointments and stuff like that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, during office hours. I'm speaking at night. So there's some visibility if someone breaks in. During the day, he can keep them down all he wants. I mean, you know, you're doing private business, that's fine.
All right, so it sounds like we're okay with the window sign and the door sign. So what we'll do is we'll vote on that now, and if it's approved, and then you just come back for the sign above.
Okay.
How's that?
That's fine.
I have a motion to approve the window and the door sign.
Make a motion to approve the window and the door
Motion
signs.
Andrew Dale, do I have a second? Second, Mr. Halper. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, next on the agenda, we have sign application for Postnet. Just please state your
Hi, good
name and
evening.
address for the...
Himanshu, I'm here from Off-Gang Architects on behalf of Postnet.
Okay. So just let us know what you've got proposed.
Sorry, say that again?
Sorry?
Say that again?
Yeah, just let us know what you got proposed.
Oh, so we've had a notice for exceeding the sign coverage for Postnet, and on the, I don't know if you have a copy of the...
Can you speak closer to the mic or move it?
Yes.
It's hard to
Move the
hear you.
mic up.
I don't know if you have a copy of what I'm presenting here, but the signage we had a violation for, or a notice, and we've made some calculations on the allowed coverage. So the coverage used to be 26% on the total storefront, including the door. On the proposed, we have brought it down to 18%, and I've worked with the owner to... I've discussed with him what's required from the franchise and for his business, and we brought it down to 18.4%. And this is
That was 18.4, you said?
so we have some temporary signage from COVID days. We've taken them down, and there's a big sign here. This is a temporary sign, but these are necessary for the franchise. And this is an A-frame sign that's sitting behind the window, and this is also hanging behind the window, so that's not included in that coverage. And you can see that square footage here.
All right, so you're down to 18.4?
Down to 18.4, yeah, I know the 10% is required, or minimum, or maximum, sorry, but I was told that, you know, up to 20 is allowed, and we've worked to bring it down quite a bit, so.
Okay. Anybody have any comments?
No, 18 doesn't seem a problem.
I don't think so.
Pretty visible, like you mentioned.
Yeah, you're good. I mean, we can see
Okay.
through your windows.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the sign application for Postnet?
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Giannettino, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. McInerney, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
And that's as revised, because the building inspector had the 26 up there, so, as revised.
All right, Edward Funeral Chapel. This is facade before they- Oh, before they were here for the...
Good evening. My name is Maite. I'm representing Hispana Signs.
How are you?
And we have a proposal for two
Please.
signs.
Bring the mic closer to your mouth.
Oh, yeah, sorry. There you go. And we're doing a proposal for two signs for the Edward Funeral Chapel. It's with LED lights. It's modules only. It's channel letters.
Okay. Yeah, according to the building inspector, everything is fine. Anybody else have any comments?
It's not fine according to him, according to the notes I have. They're asking for a height of 2.5, and only 2 foot in height is acceptable.
Only two.
The height of your sign, the length is okay. The height, one of them is 2.5. It can only be 2 feet.
Are you okay with 2?
And the Orange Avenue sign is 3 feet in height, and that can only be 2 feet in height.
Okay. Okay, we can change that.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments on it? I'm okay with it if, I don't know.
I don't have an issue with that, with the
All right, do I have a
half
motion?
foot.
What was that?
I said I don't have an issue with the half a
I
foot.
do have a motion to approve the sign permit for Edwards Funeral Home,
It's as is.
as is.
Make a motion.
You're looking for, I'm sorry. Yes, I'll make a motion.
I have a motion, Andrew Dale, do I have a second?
What is the motion for?
To approve it as is.
3 feet and 2.5 feet?
2.5, yeah, yep.
We're talking about the East Multi, or do we want to put them both together?
They just agreed to the limit, 2 feet. Why would we propose giving them more than they agreed to?
We asked if we had an issue with the proposal. I said I didn't have an issue with the proposal, so I made a motion. If they want to bring it down, then that's perfectly fine as well, but I don't have an issue with the half a foot. I don't have an issue with it.
Do we have a second?
What are you doing? Are you doing as is? You're
I'm
doing
doing
the half
as
a foot
is,
less?
so we don't have a second, so what do you do?
So nobody's seconding? All right.
No, okay. So you're willing to do 2 feet by 2 feet then?
If that's what you guys require, yeah, we're okay with it.
All right, do I have a motion to approve?
They just require like a inch to make it 2
Can we do
feet.
2.5 by 2.5, split the difference?
2.5 by,
I mean, 2.5 on both sides? Just to give us a little more of that spot?
Anybody have any comments?
make a motion, so for 2.5 on both?
All right, do we have a motion for 2.5 on both?
I'll make a motion for 2.5 on
Andrew
both.
Dale, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Halper. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, up next on the agenda is Rhino Comedies. Sign application. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, hi, I'm Maria Vale. I'm at, our address is 22 Lafayette for the business.
Now, I understand that this is essentially the same sign that have already been approved, just moving them down the street.
We moved down the street and it's square instead of round.
Okay. Anybody have any comments?
Is this a joke?
Is this a joke?
The Rhino Comedy Club, if anybody wasn't listening.
Anybody have
It's
any
replacing
I don't have
an
any-
existing sign. It's the same size.
Existing, I don't have a problem.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the sign application for Rhino Comedy Club?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. McInerney makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Giannettino. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Good luck. When is open mic night for Mr. Dale, by the way?
Wednesday.
Put them on the agenda.
All right. Up next is the continuation of the hearing. Oh, we have something else?
Oh, that was her.
Yeah, that was her. We have a continuation of the public hearing for IB2 Rockland Logistics LLC.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Darius Shafazada with the law firm of Harris Beach for the developer, who's also here, as well as our planner from VHB. We were here last time with respect to the scope. I don't want to get into some of the legalities, but we're here tonight if I believe the board is going to adopt the scope tonight. And we have been working with your planners and getting them some sections already, so we just need to get the scope adopted by your board, and we're off to the doing some work.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments or questions on the board? Any members of the...
Bonnie for her input. Do you have any input?
Well, the only thing I've already expressed is that the applicant here before you at a prior meeting, because of some questions you had, I don't believe it was adopted at that point in time. But you are under your state secret regulations are supposed to adopt it within 60 days, and that 60 days lapsed. So essentially, the scope that you're affirming is adopted is the one that they had last revised at the meeting at which you last heard them. So I just wanted you to be aware of that requirement.
Okay. That's what we did this week.
No, I did. So you can vote to adopt it or make a motion to adopt and affirm.
Are there any members of the public who would like to speak?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Nicholas Ward Willis with Keenan Bean. As you recall from the past meeting, our firm represents Suffern Equity Real Estate, the owner of a quarry property. I'm just reiterating my comment from the past and from our letter that we are supportive of a project, but request that the scope be expanded to include the traffic from our project. The board correctly noted last time that the secret regulations apply to applications. We have submitted an application that the board has received. It is on your agenda for tonight's consideration. We believe that the secret regulations then require that the adopted scope include a consideration of the traffic that would be generated from our project as well, and that the scope to be considered by this board for the draft environmental impact statement for Brookfield's project be reflective of that project and the traffic. And we would, of course, as I mentioned at the last meeting, cooperate with them on that aspect of the DEIS. So we'd ask that you amend your scope tonight to reflect that the pending application as the secret regulations would require. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may just respond to that. There was an application submitted. We saw it from the quarry property. It was, did not have a traffic study, had some statements in their long form EAF about 90 trucks and some number of parking for cars going on other areas, leaving the site, not on Old Mill Road, on others. We don't know what their project is. What we think we should do is that we adopt the scope as it is. If this project in the quarry becomes a fruition and there is a traffic study submitted to you and it goes forward, we can look at those issues in the FEIS. It's not required to be in a DEIS. Otherwise, we're at their mercy. They don't want to provide information to us, or in 3 months from now, they decide to change their project. We've done all this studying of all these traffic counts, and they may change their project. We don't even know. So I think we're taking the cart before the horse. Let's see what their traffic study shows. Once it does, which we believe has to include our study and our traffic, and then we can go from there and deal with it during the secret process itself. Mandating it under the scope is not actually required.
Okay. Anybody have any comments?
As I expressed in the prior meeting, at the time that the scope was in front of the board, there was not an application in front of your board. That was received, but that's been received after the 60-day scoping time period.
Yeah, I don't have as much of a concern on the 60-day lapse. I hear what you're saying. I mean, it is what it is. In essence, by them not proceeding, they certainly have the right to proceed as if it had lapsed. I don't really think they did or are. They're asking, which I think makes sense, for the board to affirmatively approve it, which I think the board is inclined to do. I mean, to me, to add it, or just to say, to the extent that there's another project, frankly, if Mr. Ward Willis never showed up and came, a month from now, this board would be obligated to consider their project and ask you to consider their project as part of it, just because to, turn a blind eye, basically, they'd be, pushing aside their duty to kind of look at everything when they know it's coming. But I agree with your point that, a month from now, the project may change that they don't know, even as they're sitting here. So I do think that the scope as is, if it proceeds, and then when traffic studies come in, but with the understanding from IV Logistics that when it comes in and when they proceed, you will have to include that as part of your analysis.
Yeah, I think that'll be done during the seeker process, but not, we may be done with our DEIS and get that to you, and they still haven't done anything on traffic. And if it comes in and their project changes or whatever it is, during the seeker process, it's not just the DEIS phase, the FEIS phase, we can analyze it at that time. So that's where I think is the more appropriate, so we can move down the path and see where we are.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with that, because I think the board, you could always give resistance to that 2 months from now, but, if you do, the board will take its appropriate action. I mean, the board has to do what it has to do, so.
Agreed.
And again, I don't think the board's in peril because, because the board is coming in, they'll have to count for whatever traffic for local projects. So someone's going to study the traffic
Old Mill
of the projects, and it's a matter of timing. We don't know what trip distribution will be. There's 2 access roads. Is everything going to come out, on Bella Road? Will some of the traffic come out, like Tilton, exit? We just don't have the information.
And again, I don't disagree, but I don't, the one thing I will say is, if it comes to fruition and it's a reality, this project will have to include it. It's not a situation of, well, we'll put it on the second one.
Yeah, I agree.
Has Old Mill Road been closed on yet?
Old Mill Road has not been closed, is my understanding.
So there's no traffic going through as right now?
I'm not following 100%. With our
Well, what I'm saying is, nobody owns this road just yet, right?
It's still owned by the Thruway Authority.
Right. From my understanding, there was a bid, the bid was accepted, there was a down payment, but the road has not been closed on yet, correct?
That's my understanding. That's what was in their letter of September 9th, I believe it was.
I know that we received the letter today, but, when we receive it at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it's kind of hard to read it before the, before the same day meeting. That usually doesn't happen.
Right.
So.
That's what I'm asking about, right?
Okay.
As is?
Oh, yeah.
The scope as it was?
Are we,
Anybody else? Anybody else have any comments?
No comments.
All right, do we have a motion to approve the scoping document as it stands?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Giannettino, do we have a second?
I second the motion to...
Second, Mr. Dale.
The scoping as is.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Now, there was one thing in terms of the escrow for our planner. Joanne, where were we in terms of that? How much they've used up?
They need to put another deposit.
Okay, and how much has been used so far? I thought it was about 6,000, you know?
Yes, yeah,
It's a little less than that now, right? Because you said there was another bill that had come in, and I haven't seen that one yet, so.
No, 6,000 is left or 6,000 was used?
No, 6,000 was used.
Okay.
Yeah, 6 or 7, so I would suggest reducing the same amount, because now we're getting up to
10,000.
At least 10.
Okay. Is that acceptable?
That's fine.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so you want to just make a motion that to increase the escrow by an additional $10,000
Do you have a motion to increase the there's more?
consultant review.
Motion to increase the escrow by $10,000 for the consultant review.
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Giannettino, second, Mr. McInerney. All in favor, say aye. 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 All opposed, motion carries.
We'll get it to you as soon as we can. Tomorrow or Friday or Monday at the latest.
I'll take it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is T-Mobile. We have an amended site plan.
Yep.
Good evening. For the record, Daniel Patrick from Law Firm Cuddy and Fader. We're seeking amended site plan approval to swap out some antennas at the existing T-Mobile facility at the Good Samaritan Hospital. There's existing 6 antennas up on the rooftop. We're proposing 9. There's 3 additional. It's not a significant change. They will all be painted to match the existing facade like the current antennas are. So we are hereby requesting that the amended site plan approval be approved so T-Mobile can modify its facility.
Any comments? Concerns?
My only comment is, why don't you put one on this building?
I'll bring that back to my team and let them know that you guys...
I've asked that the last time you came
Yeah,
too.
absolutely. No, it's a good source of revenue for municipalities. I know that.
Question. Do we have to send that to Kevin because it's on the state?
Yeah, the amended site plan, yeah. Well, that's what we discussed, yeah. All right, so, yeah, it's not going to be voted on or approved tonight. It is on Route 59, so it really does require the GML review by the county. I know it's an amended site plan, but that would be my recommendation, would be to circulate it and have them come back in October.
For the GML referral?
Yeah.
Is there, what's the basis of the referral? Is it
It's on Route 59, which is a state road. Yeah, it would be to continue it to, well, this is not a scheduled public hearing, right? All right. The board can waive a public hearing, or you can set a public hearing for the next meeting.
We would ask that this be waived. This is under federal law, this is a mandatory approval of this sort of upgrade. It's not a significant change to the existing facility. It's really just replacing antennas.
Any comments from anyone? Questions?
No.
I'll make a motion to waive the public hearing.
All right, motion by Mr. Dale, second by Mr. Halper. All in favor to waive the public hearing, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. So we'll send it out, and we'll put you on the agenda for next month.
Okay. Is there any approval documents that need to be prepared in advance, or is there anything else that we can provide in advance of that meeting?
I'm sorry?
He wants to know if there's any additional documents he has to supply
I
us.
have to figure out who's got to go to, and then if I need them, I will let you know.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, if there's anything we can provide in the meantime, we'd be happy to do that.
I'm sorry?
I said if there's anything we can provide in the meantime, we'd be happy to provide it, because I know my client is eager to make these changes.
19th. Okay.
Okay, I'm not going to be here.
Yeah, that's right. She's
For a
not going to be here.
Okay.
I'm having surgery on the 13th, but moving it forward a week or so isn't going to help him because he needs 30 days.
Yeah.
Better off doing it the 26th anyway.
Will you be back on the 26th?
Good
On the
question.
26th?
I'm not trying to rush it.
For a knee replacement? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Well, I'm sure they'll have somebody covered now.
Laura will cover
Wishful
it.
thinking.
I didn't know you had football this year.
I'll get her, yeah.
So should we keep it on the 19th, if she's going to come?
Whatever you want to do, 19th or 26th.
Yeah, there's no point in moving.
Yeah,
Just wait
all
for
right,
the
so
GML.
we'll do it on October 19th.
Okay.
Right?
That will be the 30, yeah. If you can get it out tomorrow, that'll be the 30.
Can you
You'll
get
have
it out
30.
tomorrow?
Or the next.
Yeah, that'll give them the 30
Perfect.
days, and
Love the timing.
we're good to go.
Thank you very much. I
Right.
appreciate it.
Thank
Good night.
you. All right, Suffern Quarry Logistics Center.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Nicholas Ward Willis with Keenan Bean on behalf of the applicant, Suffern Equity Real Estate LLC. I'm joined tonight by the principal of Suffern Equity Real Estate LLC, Robert Del Caso, and by our engineer, Lenny Savino from Langen Engineering. We have also retained Michael Galante from Hardesty Hanover as our traffic engineer, and also Barry Postganzer, AICPR, as our project architect. And tonight, before I talk about the application, I just want to give you a little bit of a history of a timeline of a project, as well as some background on Old Mill Road. I know that is a question that's in the board and the public's mind.
Excuse me, could you try to talk in the mic a little better?
I can, yes. Is that better?
Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll lean over, my apologies. And so, as I was preparing my comments this evening, I realized that there was a lot to say, and I thought it would be beneficial to put that in the letter that I had discussed with your planning board secretary this morning, and explain that as a courtesy, I was providing you with a copy in advance. I did not expect anyone would perhaps have that opportunity to read it, but rather than listen to everything I was reading, I wanted to also give you that in writing beforehand. And so, just as some background, our client, with respect to Old Mill Road, was the successful high bidder at the bids that were opened on July 11th, and then paid the additional security bid deposit of $474,000 on July 19th, and contracts were then circulated by the Thruway Authority. It had to be reviewed and approved by the New York State Comptroller's Office and the Attorney General's Office, and the contract was then fully executed by the state and returned to us on August 16th. And we are now in the process of reviewing the deed that we received just this week, and are reviewing that deed, and then that too has to go through an administrative process through the Comptroller's Office and the Attorney General's Office before the actual closing occurs. We anticipate the closing on Old Mill Road will occur within the next 6 weeks. We're working with them feverishly to advance that to a closing, and anticipate again to have that done by the middle of October at the latest. What I want to talk about also is sort of the reintroduction of this project. Some of you may recall that we had been communicating with the village and the board previously. Our clients entered into a contract of sale with the town of Ramapo to acquire the quarry property in March of 2020. And shortly after that, we then began discussions. They engaged consultants. They engaged Brooker Engineering as their civil engineer, our office for legal services, Barry Postganzer as their architect, and Michael Galanti as a traffic engineer who did some initial traffic studies. And we had discussions with village staff, the building department, some informal meetings as well with the staff. And then we also had discussions with the Rockland County IDA, with the county executive's office, as well as the Rockland County Planning Department, and some members of the village participated in those calls. And we submitted an application for concept plan review, an informal application to appear on the planning board's November 18th, 2020 meeting. That was adjourned because the proposed tenant at the time had some project changes, so we didn't want to come with a project that was different from what we were then proposing. And so we were asked to be placed on the December planning board agenda. That agenda was not convened due to a lack of applications at that time. We would have been the only one, and so we were not heard either in November or December for our concept plan review. And then in January, we were suggested that we be placed on for a joint planning board and board of trustees meeting, and that did not come to fruition through to a series of, I think the first time was a snow event, and then, as I'm going to talk about in a moment, Old Mill Road really became to the forefront, and we realized that our project needed to be put in hiatus until we had some clarity as to respect to Old Mill Road. And so the reason Old Mill Road became important at that stage was under the New York State Fire Code, if you're proposing more than 124,000 square feet, you need to have two means of fire access, even if the building is sprinklered. We clearly have access over a Tilton Road, but Old Mill Road would have given us that second access to provide then the project that we were proposing and discussing at that time. We had been in discussions with the New York State Thruway Authority and with assistance of other agencies of obtaining a occupancy permit from the Thruway Authority that would have given us permission to use Old Mill Road. That did not come to fruition. We had discussions about an easement, and the reason the occupancy permit didn't come through was because the Thruway Authority, as they were having these discussions with us, said, we don't need this property, it's surplus property. And they then entered into discussions with any agencies that were interested. The Village of Suffern had previously, I think years ago, submitted an interest in acquiring the property. And then the town of Ramapo stepped in and said they would like to acquire the property. And there were discussions between the town and the Thruway Authority. Our clients had a surveyor survey the Thruway Authority property. Our client prepared engineered plans that would show how the road would be extended to connect from Hemian to the quarry property. Those were reviewed by the town the town's engineers and consulting engineer. It was reviewed by the Thruway Authority, and there was then momentum for the Thruway Authority to convey for $1 that property to the town of Ramapo. And in fact, there was going to be a resolution on it at a board agenda in January of last year, or December of last year, and then the Village of Montebello wrote a letter with some objections to the town taking that, and it was withdrawn from the agenda, and we were thrown back in limbo. So the reason you didn't hear from us during those 2 years, even though we had initially had a number of meetings with you and on the agenda and presented a plan, was we recognized that it wasn't worth the board's time or our time on pursuing a plan unless we had that access to Old Mill Road. And that's why we're back before you now, because we do have that access to Old Mill Road when we complete the closing the next 6 weeks. You may also recall that when we had, some of you may not recall because we had done these meetings with staff and not with all members of the staff of the board, was that we'd also gone to DEC and had a jurisdictional determination letter. We had gone to the Army Corps of Engineers and received some jurisdictional determination letters. So I know we haven't presented a traffic study with our initial application. We will be doing that, and we recognize we have to do other studies. But this is a project that is more than just speculation. It's something that we have put a lot of time and thought into, and outreach at the county level and at the state level and at the federal level. And we look forward to working with the board over the next several months and as we go through this process and answer questions and work with staff to go through it. We also have received some inquiries from Brookfield about the use of Old Mill Road. I think there's not a meeting of the eyes as to how that will proceed. As we've said, we want to see both projects be successful, and we'll continue to have those discussions with them. Our goal is not to prevent their project or block it, but our goal is to have both projects, but we obviously want to make sure we protect our rights and proceed with using Old Mill Road in a manner that is useful for us as well as for anyone else who can do so. And so we'll look forward to having those discussions. As far as our project, I'll be brief in our explanation. I think it's evident from our application. It's in the PLI zoning district, approximately 623,000 square feet, 46 feet high, which it would need a variance, similar to Brookfield's. Proposed 744 parking spaces. It's a distribution warehouse for consumer products. Approximately 60 acres, 26 of would then be developed with the parking, the building, and the accessory roads. Tilton Road would be used for access for employee vehicles and shuttle buses. So we expect about 400 employees over the course of the 3 shifts, if they will, and recognizing those would also bring economic viability and enhance the businesses in downtown Suffern. And that Old Mill Road, with its access to Hemian Road, would be a private road that would have access for truck traffic only. And we would anticipate approximately 90 trips per day for the trucks as indicated in our environmental assessment form. And that's an overview of the project. We understand that the next steps for the board is to establish the escrow account so we can then work with your consultants and also, if appropriate, determine circulation for lead agency status and refer to any of the other administrative agencies for their review and comment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody have any comments, questions?
I doubt if you got a copy of the building inspector's comments. Did you?
We did receive that, yes.
And the fire?
Yes.
Okay, then I won't go through them as long as you got a copy.
Got it, understood it, and we'll work to respond to those.
Okay. One other thing that I think I brought up to you the last time is the village has not, I won't say it won't, has not in the past looked favorably on using the Lafayette Route 59 entrance-exit for other than emergency vehicles. So that, I heard cars, shuttle buses, and
right.
I'm just giving you a heads up.
No, I appreciate that.
I'm giving you.
Understood, and that's why we'll go through the process with the traffic engineers and with the board and your consultants to evaluate what works best from a traffic turning movement and traffic flow, and understand if it needs to be restricted to emergency access and the other turning movements are accommodated, that would be appropriate, so we understand those discussions.
Okay, just want you to know about it, that's all.
Anybody else have any comments or questions?
So before we move on, a number of things to taking place. This is obviously their first time on, no, I shouldn't say first time on, but first time in a while. But it's as if they're starting from the beginning. It has never been circulated, and there's never been any secret action on it.
That is correct.
So, Ms. Franson happens to be here, so I think we had this discussion about what you would recommend for the escrow.
I suggested the same amount.
So, and again, just so for everybody's edification, the village code does provide that the applicant, in consultation with the applicant and the consultant, the board would set an escrow to cover their fees for their review, secret review and plan review. So I guess the next step would be a motion to establish the escrow at $10,000.
Do you have a motion to establish the escrow at $10,000?
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Giannettino. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. McInerney. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Have you seen anything to date on this, or?
So just a comment, is there a second plan at this point? Because I haven't seen one.
I have it
Yes.
for you.
And we can provide you with electronic copies, so we can contact you and give you a direct link so you can download them if you like.
That'd be great, and I did have an opportunity to quickly review your letter, and it was supposed to be a November letter that you were attaching.
I'll forward that, thank you.
Yeah, it wasn't on mine, but Joanne may not have gotten it either.
I did.
The attachment, so I just wanted to know that it was attached.
Thank you, I'll make sure that gets to the board.
Because I don't know the history of the board, and how Ramapo got it, and then I know you purchased it from the town of Ramapo. When town of Ramapo received it for $1, did it say that it was going to be parkland or anything of that nature?
Correct, there was no restrictions on its use, it's not a parkland, no.
Bonnie, actually, they said it was going to be parkland, they never dedicated it.
They never. The reason I bring it up is one of the questions I had in my mind was, I know working with some other communities, if it is actually purchased as parkland, that there's a whole state
Right.
Right, and I didn't know.
That would have come up when they purchased, the title company would have.
So that question was raised, and the town of Ramapo satisfied that answer, that it was never dedicated as parkland, so there was no alienation required.
Okay, so at some point it might be useful in the
Sure.
And, yeah, and frankly, the fact that the state is involved with the Old Mill Road situation probably, if there were a question about that, it would certainly come up there, because it does require, you're right, state legislation in order to abandon that parkland, so.
And those are just the quick comments, but I will have to review the site plan.
Yes.
And if you send it digitally, you can also send it, hard copy to us, that'd be great.
I have a hard copy for you. I'll give it to you at the end. We're good. We're good.
Are you asking for any particular action in terms of, the intention would be to put it over, obviously.
No, I defer to the board's discretion. Obviously, if the board is inclined to circulate for intent to be lead agency, because I think it's a procedural step and you've received it, that would be appreciated, in referring to the agency so we can start to receive comments. I think that would help inform the board and the consultant's discussion as well.
Right. So the next, if the board is inclined, would be to declare the board's intention to be the lead agency, just not establishing lead agency, just intention, and it would be circulated to county planning and other agencies just to get the ball rolling along.
Yeah, I will even say that the EAF has to be reviewed to make sure that it's accurate. So if you want to do that subject to perhaps a review, that would be great.
In terms of before it's circulated?
Yeah.
Bonnie? Sure. I know that they're recording in the back, so maybe if you just want to, at least you can grab one back here.
Well, you should jump.
You never works for you.
Bonnie Franson, Suffern Planning Consultant. So I was saying that if you do your notice of intent to be lead agency, in as much as the EAF is their document, we just like to do a first review to make sure all the permits and approvals are noted, and because ultimately you have to circulate to the various involved agencies, and we want to make sure that's as complete as possible. So I would just ask that it be conditioned on, us reviewing it first before it gets distributed. I think that'd be beneficial. Thank you.
A question for you. Should we wait until they get title to Old Mill Road to declare?
I don't think so. I mean, they have indicated their intent to purchase it. They've committed monies to it. It's not official
No, we can do the
yet.
preliminary review.
But that's part of your project, is acquiring, the land. So it's obviously, because the purchase wasn't made by Rockland Logistics, it's not really part of their project, except that they need it for access. But, they intend to purchase the property, so I would definitely, I think that's part of it, and I think that they can include it.
Okay.
And I don't think it's premature.
Right, and two things on that. One, you've paid the application fee, correct, for this?
Yeah. That is
correct, yeah. And they're going to pay the $10,000, so it's kind of on their dime anyway.
Okay, that's
So,
fine.
again, and I agree with Ms. Franson that she indicates, I would declare intention to be lead agency tonight and do the circulation, subject to the review by Nelson Pope.
Thanks.
All right, do you have a motion?
And I'm sorry, one other, I like it, we're getting at it. For Mr. Ward Willis, your client is the owner and the applicant, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, so I don't know if you have to answer this or not, are there other applicants or owners that may be involved in this? In other words, is there a contract going on, or?
No, our client is the owner and the applicant.
Okay.
What are the other listed names?
I'm sorry?
There was a list of other names.
Correct.
Are they,
members of
are
the
they,
Members of a corporation are listed as required by your application.
okay, so there is other people involved in the corporation, not the ownership.
That is correct. As is required in your application, that's all disclosed.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but it's both. The people listed are the owners and are the members of the corporation, which is the owner and which is the applicant.
Yes, that's
So
correct.
we've got 4 people listed and 2 LLCs, so everybody's included, is that what you're saying?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it would be lead agency, to declare intention to be lead agency, and circulate subject to review by Nelson Pope.
Do we have a motion to declare our intention to be lead agency, subject to review by Nelson Pope?
I'll make
circulation.
I'll make the motion.
Motion, Mr. Dale, second. Second, Mr. Giannettino. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, and the next meeting is the...
The next meeting is the 19th. In fact, you know what? Do we have a motion to set the next meeting for October 19th at 7 p.m.?
So moved.
Mr. Giannettino. Do I have a second? Second. Mr. Halper. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Do we have any old business? Any new business? Any comments? Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion, Mr. Dale. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Giannettino. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries.